Good afternoon, this is Melanie.attwater, your local independent estate agent in Caterham Surrounds. I'm here today. I wanted to do this interview for a long time with architect Ross Bowditch from RB Design. And I just wanted to break down and demystify really what the process is when you're thinking of doing an extension or a knock through and you need an architect. So welcome, Ross.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. So what do you find are the main questions that people call you about when they're considering doing something?
So I get obviously different kind of inquiries. Some people have never sort of extended before or built before and have no idea. And so they kind of come to me sort of fresh, if you like, and I'll be able to kind of advise them from that point. Some people have had failed attempts at planning and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. But
so obviously you submit planning for people, you help with the building control side of things as well.
I do,
which is helpful for people, but to navigate all of the planning and what might go through, and you can give an indication of what will be allowed and not.
Yes, I've got a lot of experience in planning matters, building control matters. In fact, RB Design is a bit of a one-stop shop, so we kind of take it from nothing to a point where you can build.
Right.
So whereas other firms can take it up to a certain point, and then they'd say, you need an engineer, but it's all kind of in-house.
Right, so it's the whole package.
It's the whole package. So yes, so starting from nothing, obviously it can be a bit of a daunting process if you've never done it before. I deal with a lot of kind of renovations, extensions, loft conversions, new builds. So I would guide you through from kind of the start, initially kind of just to give some advice, really.
Yes.
Look at the property, either remotely with somebody, have a chat, look at an old Rightmove link and share my screen, look at the planning constraints, give them advice on that and what's feasible. So obviously before I know the house inside out, I can't give specific advice, but I can give you a good indication, I think.
Yeah, I suppose see if it's a non-starter or not. So
exactly, or if it's going to be a challenging one and what's going to be involved. So it always starts off with an initial chat, and sometimes it's easier to pop round, see somebody.
Yes.
Sometimes, especially if they're local, I can kind of pop and see the house. It's a bit easier to kind of do and advise them from that point.
So it's like a casual chat, really.
It is really
to try and flesh it all out, kind of thing.
It starts like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And is there a big cost to that then for initial consultation?
No. Ordinarily, if it's fairly local, I don't charge, for an initial chat. And especially these days with a remote chat as well, it can kind of be a half an hour chat, and from that point, I'll be able to then send them kind of a quotation of what's involved.
Right. So you'll get the quotation and then you go through. So take me through the process in terms of drawings and everything else. Yeah,
which... Again, people that haven't done it before, it's a good idea to kind of have an idea of the process and the timings of it.
Yes.
So it always starts the process with me doing a survey of the property, usually, if it's a renovation or an extension. If we're talking about that for now, then I would do a survey, draw up the whole of the existing property, get to know the house inside out and all the structure and everything else. And then I kind of go away, draw it all up in CAD, and come back to them with some initial designs. That's the first step. And that takes us into like a design stage, really, where we'll bounce back and forth, we'll scribble, we'll chat. Obviously, everyone's got their own idea of what they want. So I try and achieve that for people. But obviously, I'm working in the constraints of planning, structure, party wall matters and all these other kinds of things. But that kind of kicks off the process, and that answers a lot of questions. That first set of drawings is, it may not be completely right or how they want it, but it's a good starting point to have a scribble, have a chat, and I'll then take it back to the drawing board usually and come back with revisions. And we kind of go through that stage until we get to a point where they're kind of happy with the idea of the design.
So you sign that off.
Sign it off, and then I'll be able to take it to the next stage, which would be the planning.
Okay. And typically in Tandridge, for example, I guess how long's a piece of string, but are we talking to 6 months? Is it?
No, if Tandridge are kind of, say the council is kind of behaving, it should be about 8 to 10 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
Should be. Yeah. There have been times where obviously councils get very behind, but ordinarily it should be about that sort of time frame.
Okay, and in that time, I suppose people are getting quotes from builders and things like that, or is that too premature?
No, to be honest, even before we go to planning, I think it's a good idea to get some ballpark figures from a contractor or two, because obviously you don't want to end up with planning permission for something that's outside of your budget.
Yes.
And pricing has been so kind of unpredictable, should we say. Since COVID, it's kind of gone up and down. And so I kind of stay away from giving people ballparks these days. I'd rather than go to somebody who prices every day to get a steer.
Yes.
And I work with a lot of good contractors. They might have a contractor.
Right, okay.
I can put them in touch with someone.
Brilliant.
Just to get a kind of a feel.
Sure.
Because that can form part of the design.
Yeah, of course. You might have to bring it down a bit.
Have to bring it down.
If you've got lots of money, you might be able to scope it out.
Exactly.
But, okay. Yeah. Any other things that you think might be useful to tell people if they're considering instructing an architect?
I think it's well, I think the main thing really is to have an idea of roughly what they want to achieve. This is what I say to people, because obviously people a lot of the time have gone round and round in circles, different ideas, and they kind of you've got
do
to
it early on, I guess, because know what you can and can't do.
It's good to live in a property for a while if you can, as opposed to just going fresh, because then you get to know the life.
I always say that as an estate agent, settle and get to understand the home.
Get to see how you like it and where you sit in the garden, how it all works.
How you live.
How you live. That's quite important, really. I forgot what I was going to say there. But that's the sort of thing. So to get to know the house, that's it. To get kind of a bullet point list of what you want to achieve.
Yeah. What's important to your priorities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I'll go around and kind of try and achieve that in the best way possible that I feel can work from a planning point of view, structure, and something roughly within the budget. I mean, obviously, I've got a good idea roughly of what we're looking at. But again, this is why after we kind of get to that point, I'll say, right, speak to a contractor, make sure we're in that sort of thing. So kind of that's the main thing, really, a bullet point list, what they want to achieve, how they live, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that's been very useful to people. Certainly Ross has been very well recommended by one of my clients who's worked with him recently, who's very happy with the service.